Mind of Tim Burton. Such a wonder and crazy place to be in. For a man that's been around for decades, this man has conjured some of the most unique and just darkly interesting films from his twisted mind. And of course, you can't talk about the man without mentioning his earlier films. And of course, this one will always be, if for nothing else, out of all the movies, this one I think everyone will talk about ever with him.
Oh, yeah, here I come, baby.
He's guaranteed to put some life
Attention, keyboard shoppers.
in your afterlife. Michael Keaton is Beetlejuice.
I'm the ghost with the most, babe.
Beetlejuice is directed by Tim Burton with a screenplay by Michael McDowell and Warren Skaaren, and a story by Michael McDowell and Larry Wilson. The film stars Alec Baldwin, Geena Davis, Jeffrey Jones, Catherine O'Hara, Winona Ryder, and Michael Keaton. According to IMDb's plot synopsis, the spirits of a deceased couple are harassed by an unbearable family that has moved into their home and hires a malicious spirit to drive them out. Tim Burton is a director with his own style and unique approach to creating his own world. Man's been doing it for decades at this point, and people can never get enough of what Mr. Burton will always come up with. And to this day, Beetlejuice was, and I would say still is, considered Burton's full vision on display. I think every movie that comes from him, everyone knows it's Tim Burton, but I think really, if you really boil it down to what are the movies that are his complete vision, I think a lot of times it will always go back to Beetlejuice in some form of fashion. Rewatching the film after many years, because I can barely remember some things from the film, but not a lot. It's still, I think, his best work today. I don't think anyone's gonna deny that. I think to this day, this will always be his best movie, or at least up there as one of his best movies ever made. So here are the positives that I had with this movie. The performances are hilarious. Al Baldwin is dorky and lovable as Adam Maitland. Baldwin knows how to be funny when being serious and a caring husband. Baldwin, of course, was everywhere in the 80s and then of course in the 90s, and so for him to be playing like a lovable husband but also just kind of a aloof in a way of a husband, I think that works to the film's benefit with regards to who you follow throughout this movie, and I think he works well with Burton's sense of humor of Adam Maitland and in his own ways and how he thinks the spirit world works. Geena Davis is sweet and quick as Barbara Maitland. Davis brings the same level of energy as Baldwin, and that's always good to have a on-screen partner that can kind of match the same level with your co-star. At the very least, that's what should matter, especially if you're a married couple in a movie, and I think Geena Davis fills that void pretty well with what Baldwin does. Both Baldwin and Davis are excellent together. You see their off-screen chemistry throughout this entire film, and it just really does show how much both Baldwin and Davis have respect for one another and how much they seem to have had fun playing on set, but also just playing alongside each other, I think works well, and I think it does help the film out with regards to who you follow, and I think having these two really carry this movie for a majority of it, I think works well in the movie's favor. Jeffrey Jones is mild-mannered and bumbling as Charles Dietz, the patriarch of the Dietz family that moves into the Maitland's home. Jones plays Charles as a man that goes along with whatever his wife tells him, making him cowardly to stand up to her. And that's always just a delight to see this guy just constantly having to keep his wife at bay with what she wants and having to pretty much go along with everything, I think is kind of funny. And I think Jones's comedic timing also works well in the movie. Catherine O'Hara is feisty and stern as Dila Dietz. O'Hara makes Dila almost like a prima donna who feels like she is high class and sees herself as being amongst like her peers or like other socialites in this vein of being a sculpture artist and the creations that she makes. She really does believe that she thinks that she is making true art in the things that she makes, and I think Catherine O'Hara plays that up pretty well. Winona Ryder, in her debut, this is her on-screen debut at, I believe, like 15, 16 years old, is strange and misunderstanding as Lydia Dietz. Ryder makes Lydia the only relatable person in her family, but is sympathetic when she interacts with the Maitlands, which is awesome to see a young Winona Ryder in her debut really show her sense of strange ways she sees life and how she views death in a more sympathetic light than I think most people, especially back then, wouldn't see. Usually when ghosts always appear, everyone's just afraid, but it's just kind of nice to have a character that is kind of sympathetic and kind of nice towards our protagonists, or at the very least our main couple that we follow. Both Jones, O'Hara, and Ryder are good with each other. They really do feel like a family in a dysfunctional way. The way they talk to each other, the way Lydia doesn't have huge respects for Hila, and she just kind of thinks her father's just not putting up much with regards to what to do with regards to the family and how the family structure works. Both Baldwin, Davis, and Ryder are also adorable together. All of them being so kind and sweet makes for a really great relationship that I like to see in this film, and it works pretty well to the strength of their relationship. But of course, you can't talk about this film without talking about Michael Keaton as the title character himself, Beetlejuice. Keaton lights up every time he's on screen and pretty much steals every scene that he is in. He is hardly in this movie, but yet somehow, in some way, Michael Keaton just manages to snag every scene that he's in and elevate it because of who Beetlejuice is as a character and how deranged but also nuts and disgusting how this character is. And I think Keaton, and I really believe this, is what catapulted him to where he's at. And I know a lot of people think it was Batman. I would want to say that even though his career had been building before that, it was this movie that helped landed him with regards to high profile roles and still has a career going forward because of what this character is and the chance that he had with playing him. The direction is magnificent. Director Tim Burton is on top game with this film. His vision is all over this entire movie. Most people, when they think of Burton, they usually think of a man who comes up with weird and twisted and very bizarre characters or art design, set decorations, or world building. And it's all because of how much, at least with this movie, Burton wanted to make this a very strange and very bizarre film from beginning to end. But he knows how to balance it pretty well with the strange and kind of the like normalcy. And I think that's just kind of the fun of seeing him balance that out, but still bringing his own styling of weirdness to it. It's kind of fun to see him really bring that sort of styling that we would now associate him with this movie being on full display. The music is whimsical. Composer Danny Elfman crafts a score that is fun and can be spooky as well. Elfman truly understands Burton's view to a T. Danny Elfman is truly a genius when it comes to composing music. He has worked with Tim Burton multiple times. He has worked for other directors multiple times. And anytime he has composed some music, there is not one time that you can say to yourself, he cannot compose. Because when that music hits, for this movie, it works. And it really does feel like he understands Burton's sense of style and world building. And I think that works well with having a composer meet with your director with regards to what he sees and vice versa. Having almost like a language in a way with talking with one another on how this film would be brought to life through the music. The cinematography is terrific. Cinematographer Thomas E. Eckerman makes a consistent and vibrant looking film that brings the world of the dead to life, creating an otherworldly look. The way this film feels, it feels very much, I guess you could say, low budget. I understand it probably isn't, but just how it's consistent with how the camera moves and how so many twists and turns happen, how it's framed, how it's shot, it all looks terrific. It all brings the world of the dead to life unfold, and it's incredible to see how much of it does shine through that camera work. Production is incredible. Seeing the sets, costumes, and props looks stunning. It all looks lived in as well. How the characters are, especially when it's the dead. Seeing like how some of the characters have died, how they look, how they're dressed, but also some of the costume designs with regards to even those said dead people, I think works pretty well. The story is engaging, following this couple who are dead trying to get rid of the deeds by hiring Beetlejuice. Kind of a funny concept. It's almost kind of like a play on like exorcism in a way, but like the reverse way. It made for a fun watch. I don't think anybody will walk into this not being bored. There's never a moment that I don't think this movie stalls out with regards to what comes up throughout the movie and how it presents itself. I think it keeps audiences on their toes and actually keeps them engaged with what the movie is presenting. The practical effects are amazing. Seeing the stop motion or the miniatures shows how much effort was put into the look appeal of what Burton is going for. There might be some bits where it's aged, but it still holds up pretty well. How Burton manages to make all these fantastical things in this movie is remarkable to me because of how much he puts the emphasis on the strange aspect of the dead and how it's so otherworldly, especially like the sandworms or even some of the other stop motion effects that happen in this movie. It feels kind of really bizarre and weird, but you just kind of go with it because of how much the movie kind of embraces that nature. Pacing and runtime is solid. Every scene doesn't drag on nor speeds through. With a runtime of 1 hour and 32 minutes, it all feels right. There's never a moment in this movie that I don't think it dilly-dallies or drags on. It all feels like it's always consistently going and it always consistently makes it fun and hilarious to watch. The screenplay is witty. Writers Michael McDowell and Warren Skaaren craft a script that balances the dark comedy and fun nature of how to be a dark comedy, and I think it works well with some of the jokes and some of the conversations that characters have. But really, the jokes I think is what sells this movie with regards to how to balance out the horror comedy, and I think that succeeds pretty much. It all blends together overall. There is only one issue that holds it back for me from being so perfect. One issue, and it's something that's 100% not the movie's fault, it's just what it is, but here is the only negative that I saw. Some of the visuals have not aged well. Anytime they use a blue screen or fading on like some of the ghosts, like when they are supposed to be ghosts and you can see them, see the background and still see them at the same time, it doesn't look well. It's something to expect from an older film. That's usually always the case with visual effects of, whether it be the 80s or 90s. Sometimes effects like that aren't always going to hold up. Thankfully, it's only few and far between, but when it does happen, you do notice it, and you're just like, that hasn't aged the best, but it's alright. Beetlejuice is a comedy horror classic. Without a doubt, none of his films come close to surpassing this movie. Tim Burton can try all as he wants, but nothing can ever surpass what he did with this film, and I don't think anything will ever. A film that will continue to make people laugh and have a fun time. I don't think anybody would think this movie would be as funny or as witty as it can be, but I think it's due to Burton's involvement as well as the writers who knew how to blend it all together. It makes for a very fun, entertaining, and laughable movie. I am going to give Beetlejuice a 9 out of 10. I think it's hilarious. I think it's funny. I think it is very much something that still holds high standards with regards to horror comedy, but just for Burton's filmography, I mean, that's a good enough placement with regards to how people still remember his work because of that film. Again, the influence that comes after is because of this movie. I'd be surprised if there was a movie that tries to be normal for Burton. If he tries to do something that is normal, that would be very bizarre for him to even try. So now I will do my review for Beetlejuice, and then the rest of the September movie. So yes, look forward to those reviews and other movie TV show reviews coming soon.